Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. It's so good to see all of you guys on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026, and we are live. So good to have all of you guys joining me here today on this channel for today. And yes, we're going to be also focusing on some mental health. And so the reason why I'm wearing this getup is because I want to give a little bit of joy to every single one of you today. If you guys have not already, go ahead and do the damn thing and put a like on down on the stream. We appreciate it very much. And I do these antics because I care about you so very much. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles, so you guys have that there. Also, if you guys would like to ask me a question, give you a video response, you guys do that through qbouncy at qbouncy.com/Jaybefaunt. And you guys can actually give me any questions. I respond via video, or if you want, I can react to videos there. Good to see all of you guys here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to every single one of you guys that are joining this. A lot of people will probably be thinking, oh my God, I thought this was a serious commentary channel. What in the world is he dressed up as that as? And here's the thing. I am many different things at once. I am not just going to be a serious political commentator, but I also like to have fun with my audience as well. See, here's one of my beliefs. You have to laugh in order to be able to keep yourself from crying. And this system that we currently live in, you have to be able to at least chuckle at yourself and laugh at yourself in order to be able to live. And like I always say, joy is revolutionary. So is this a revolutionary act? Well, you bet your ass it is. And so good to see all of you guys joining. And when I get to the more serious stuff, then of course, I will be removing this getup. But I just wanted to start off with this because I wanted to bring a little joy to each and every one of you in your life. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And I will be also addressing the people in the chat while I have this getup on, because why not? So let's get into the chat and say hello to all of the people in here, and we shall move on. Okay, so we have Edward coming in saying, hey, JB, I hope that everything is okay with you. So I'm going to be real with you, Edward. I'm exhausted. Bro, I said to myself, you know what? I'm not even doing a full show today. I'm doing like 2 segments instead of 3 because I had to close last night, and I didn't get home till after midnight. And by the time I actually got something to eat and in bed, it was probably close to 2. And so I am exhausted, and I am not somebody that sleeps in very long. So my eyes were open at the regular time. So rest assured, I'm going to be going to bed early tonight because, JB's talk is exhausted. All right. Thank you so very much. Good to see you in the chat. All right, so we have Holly coming in saying, hi, JB, happy Tuesday. Good to see you in here. All right, we have Sean coming in saying, hey, good to see you also in here, Sean. All right. And so let's go into this. Holly says they banned Haiti from the World Cup because of their jersey, among other things, if you know what I mean. Yeah, of course, they would ban Haiti, especially them being the first and real legitimate slave rebellion that actually took over a country and took back their country. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised about that because the sons and daughters of colonizers don't like to be reminded of the failure it was to keep and exploit a people and to enslave them. So, of course, they don't want to be reminded of that, but they should have never done it in the first place. But I say, Haiti, stick to your guns and do not let your foot off of their proverbial necks. Keep it going. So thank you so very much. Let's go into all this said. We're doing it live. Yes. Dang it. Oh my goodness. All right. Sean says JB Einstein. Yes, JB Einstein. Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, good to see all of you guys in here. True Sensei is giving out love. Thank you so very much. Roger says, Ellie Mistel, what's up? What's up? What's up? Good to see you. Oh my goodness. Holly, this is true. If I can't dance, I don't want your revolution. Hey, talk about it. Talk about it. All right, good to see you. Yeah, Roger says home till after midnight. I was right. You are a midnight ballerina. Are you calling me zesty? You calling me zesty? That's Mr. Zesty to you. All right. And says, yeah, Edward says the U.S. was the worst host for the Cup. Absolutely. It is absolutely horrible for the World Cup. But hey, as we can see, you know what? It's all about money. It's all about what cash can do. Some of you guys may remember, I think it was it Wu-Tang Clan? Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dollar bills, y'all, right? So absolutely, yes. So what are we going to be talking about today? Let's get into this. Let's get into our thumbnails, and then we shall get into the rest of the show today. So we have two segments today that we're going to be doing. And then also I'm going to have a chat with you guys a little bit later. We're going to be talking about mental health because of this particular month. So we'll be getting into that. And so I really want to also jump into that subject as well. But later in the show today, we're going to be talking about the Iran deal or no deal. Trump said, I don't like it. Is he talking about the deal or is he talking about something more? So we're going to be getting into that because I think this is going to be more of a campaign tool for not only the midterm elections this year, but also for the midterm elections next year as well. And then we're going to be discussing unfixable, right? I'm sorry, we're going to be talking about Let's Check In. We're talking about mental health. We're getting into that. I think that's going to be very important for us to get into, especially during this month. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, in addition to it being Pride Month. So I also wanted to check in with people in regards to their mental health. But first, we're going to be talking about unfixable. We're going to be talking about reacting really to some auto mechanics that are talking about an auto mechanic shortage. So we're going to be getting into this, and I would like to get into this right now. We're going to be getting into it. We can't fix this. Let's get into this immediately. So when you take your car to the auto dealership to get serviced, you need maintenance, you need repairs. You expect it to be done in a timely manner. You expect it to be at a reasonable price. And you expect also that the mechanics that are working on your car are paid fairly. Well, as we can see, there was actually a shortage. And many of you who are getting your cars serviced at these dealerships are now waiting prolonged periods of time in order to be able to get your car fixed, repaired, or serviced. So I want to get into this because there was some remarks made first by the CEO of Ford. And so we're going to get into this right now because this leads into a larger conversation. So let's share this.
When I woke up, there were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technician. So can't get my car fixed. Nope. 2 weeks. Average wait is 2 weeks. Not because we don't have the parts, we don't have the mechanics. Factory workers, construction workers, farmers, all the people that move things, truck drivers, rail workers, and people fix things, plumbers, electricians, HVAC, all the people that basically work with their hands. Why is there a shortage of these workers? Well, it's a complicated problem, but there is, let's put it that way, literally 1 million openings right now. Technicians in dealerships working on cars. At Ford, we have 6,000, probably 400,000 repair technician shortages across the economy. First of all, the productivity has not caught up with the white collar. In fact, has gone down over the last 20 years. Number two, the jobs aren't as glamorous as a white collar job from college. And I think the permitting and all the regulations has really stunted the growth of these kind of jobs. This morning, when I woke up, there were 6,000 bays in our dealerships with no technicians, so can't get my car fixed.
There's something that he's not telling you. And what is that thing? A lot of auto technicians, auto mechanics that are at these dealerships are going to tell you exactly what's missing. And instead of me preaching to the choir and saying exactly what I've been saying ad nauseum for almost 5 years, I'm going to let them be the ones to tell you, because ultimately this is what needs to be heard from everyone. I want to give a shout out to Roger Meadows for submitting the story, because this is actually one that I think that a lot of people seem to miss out on. Because a lot of times we talk about the Amazon workers, or we'll talk about the railroad workers. We'll talk about the workers that work in construction, or we'll talk about the workers that work in restaurants, right? But how many of us talk about the workers that work at car dealerships, the mechanics, right? The people that work on your transmissions, your tires, your drivetrain, the engine block, the people that work in the body shops. Many of these people, we don't talk about them enough, especially in these trades. And I think there seems to be this type of thought mentally across the country where we think of the trades now as kind of one of those that are, not as touched in a negative sense by the system, because it seems like, oh, we're so hyper focused on college and white collar jobs that these types of jobs that are vocationally centered, they're not really affected. But in reality, we're seeing that they are drastically affected today. So I want to share just this. And so shout out to this creator here. Her channel is called A Homestead Journey. Well, she actually discusses about car dealerships. And so I want to get into this. And
so apparently there is a major shortage.
And so, because she does a really good job of just sharing the words of mechanics and exactly what they're going through. And I want you to juxtapose that to what the CEO of Ford has said. So let's get into this. And you guys are actually going to know exactly what direction I'm going once you see the first video. Let's go.
So apparently there is a major shortage going on right now with mechanics and auto technicians, and it's starting to become a serious problem.
All right, so there's a nationwide shortage of technicians, automotive technicians, no matter what brand it is. People just don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to show you right now why there's a nationwide shortage of automotive technicians, especially at the dealership level. Let me show you exactly why. So this right here is the labor time for removing an HVAC assembly, the heater box inside the vehicle. We have an evaporator leak and the AC doesn't work. And this is the labor time from, I believe, All Data. I don't know if this thing will ever focus. Right there, All Data, pays 13.5 hours. See that? 13.5 hours labor to remove the HVAC assembly. Why don't this thing want to focus? And then this is the warranty labor time from Nissan, 4.8. They want me to do that HVAC assembly for 4.8 hours when All Data is saying that it takes like 3 times as much as the warranty time, 13.5.
Okay, so first of all, let's get into this here, because you're going to start getting into what we like to call one of the biggest scams in this country. And one of the biggest scams in this country that a lot of people don't talk about is wage theft. Wage theft, and people are like, what is wage theft? Well, wage theft is basically you working beyond the amount of hours that are necessary in order to you working beyond the amount of hours that are necessary, but you're not getting paid for those same hours. It's just like, for instance, an example of wage theft would be you have to come in for a meeting, but the boss says do not clock in, but you still have to be there for that work meeting. When you're in that meeting, you are working, so therefore you should get paid for that work. But to them, if they can talk you out of doing it, then that means they're stealing time from you. That means they're stealing hours from you. That's money out of your pocket. That's theft. And so also, if, for instance, you go on break and then they make it seem like your break was a little bit longer, they may add 5 or 10 minutes to your break on the clock, even though you clocked in right on time. That means that, and then you clock back in, and those 5 or 10 minutes you've been working, they've added that to your breaks. That means that's extra time that they got for free. And so wage theft is literally the biggest form of theft in the United States. I want to make myself very clear so that everybody can see wage theft is the biggest form of theft in the United States. Nobody else comes close. And the reason why nobody wants to talk about it, or not nobody, but a lot of people, especially in corporate media, don't want to talk about it, is because it's the corporations that are doing it. It is the bosses. It is the parasite class. Because how do they make more money? They take it out of you. And so, just like how this gentleman was showing, right? It takes 14 hours to do that job, but they want it done in what, 4 hours? Hang on. Let's go back just a few seconds. He want it done in 4.8 hours.
0.8 hours, when all data is saying that it takes like 3 times as much as the warranty.
So they want a 13-hour job to be done in just under 5. And they're going to go into why that is so problematic, because it literally is wage theft. And so let's get into it.
13.5. So many of you may not know how technicians get paid. We get paid by the job. If a job pays 2 hours, then we'll get 2 hours no matter how long it takes us to complete that job. Our hourly rate may be $40 an hour. We may get paid $40 an hour, $50 an hour, and we'll only get 2 hours worth of that time to do that job. If it takes us 3 hours, then we'll still get 2 hours for that. So this is exactly the reason why nobody wants to do this anymore.
Okay, so here's the crazy part, right? So, and I'm going to get to a point where somebody actually talks about what people may think is the inverse. So if I have a job that takes 2 hours, right? Let's say I get paid $40 an hour, right? Just like he said, if I get paid $40 an hour and a job takes 2 hours, right? That means I get $80 for that 2 hours that I did working on a job. But what if it takes me 4 hours to do that job, but they only pay you for 2 hours because they expect it to be done in 2 hours? Well, then instead, if it takes double that time, 4 hours, then guess what? Even though I made $80 off of 4 hours, that 4 hours now makes my per hour rate lower. It's just simple math. And so because then it makes it lower, that means it's theft. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what if you did a 2-hour job and it was $80 an hour? If you made $40 an hour and you did a 2-hour job, but you were able to do it in an hour, well, then of course you will come up. But it's not that simple, because the corporations don't want it to be that simple. Because if it was that simple, if it was that easy for you just to make more, they would ban it. But why don't they ban it? Because they have a workaround. And so I'm going to share this with you guys too. So we're going to jump around in this video because I want to share what a gentleman says. me see. I think is he right here? No, I think it was before that. Yes. Okay. So he gives a great explanation as to why it's not the inverse. And so this is a chunk of the video that I want you guys to see. All right. So let's just finish this guy and then, okay.
To work. And that's why you can't find anybody to work on cars. If you want to compete, then compete.
I'm in a mood and I want to air out some dirty laundry. I've been a mechanic most of my working life. My career started at a few different shops, a boat shop and independent. I worked for Snap-on for 6 months, which is a whole other story. And then at one point I got a job at a local dealership and I spent 9 years there. I started at what was basically an apprenticeship and worked all the way to full certification. And by the time I left, it was anything from brake jobs all the way up to diagnosis and repair of hybrid electric vehicles. Now, periodically, management would have one-on-one meetings with their technicians about productivity. Now, if you don't know how most mechanics get paid, the easiest way to think about it is commission. It's commission. You are paid by work completed, not how many hours you've worked. So let's say you get a water pump job. According to the book, that water pump job pays 3 hours. So you get paid 3 hours, whether that job takes you 3, 6, or 2 hours. Now, pay period lasts about 2 weeks. You stack jobs on top of jobs. So let's say in a given pay period, you work 90 hours, but you produced 120. You get paid on the 120, not the 90. Ideally, this system would work great and it would be rewarding. The harder you work, the more money you make. It doesn't matter how long you're at the shop. The harder you work, the more hours you make, the more money you make, right?
Okay, so this is what they think how things operate within the capitalist system. This is the thought. The harder you work, the more you should make. But as many of you know, as you've been watching this channel for damn near 5 years, we know that that's not the case. Just look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk does not work harder than me. That's for damn sure. Look, some people are going to come into the comments and some people are going to go, no, I'm going to tell you right now, I work harder than Elon Musk. But just because he was able to exploit some people, he's now the world's first trillionaire. You work harder than Elon Musk. Your mama works harder than Elon Musk. Your daddy works harder than Elon Musk. Your kids work harder than Elon Musk. Most people in this country, in this world, work harder than him. And yet he is a trillionaire. 1 million seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is over 30 years. 1 trillion seconds is over 30,000 years. And so when people talk about, oh my God, well, he earned, no, he did not earn nothing. That is the, you know how people who are say they're against DEI say, oh, it means didn't earn it. Well, if you were to apply that, that would apply directly to Elon Musk. He didn't earn it. He took it. Nothing he has ever done, ever, as far as the work and the value he produced, ever amounted to $1 trillion. Nothing. The only thing that is worth more than $1 trillion is the life and breath that he has. That's it. Which is equal to the same life and breath that you and I have. Outside of that, nothing is worth. Nothing he has ever done has been worth $1 trillion. Nothing. And so this is the thought a lot of people have in their heads. The harder you work, the more you should make. But in a capitalist system, it doesn't work that way. It never has and it never will. Do you think that in the feudal times, the kings and the emperors and the queens that ruled over, especially Europe, do you really think that they actually worked harder just to be able to live in that castle? And people go, well, no, that was back then. Now we don't have that. Yes, we do. You don't think we don't have a capitalistic form of royalty? Hell, they used to call the Kennedy family Camelot. Why? Does not the British royal family still exist? Billionaires are the new kings, queens, and emperors. The only thing that changed was the branding. Wake up and smell the roasted coffee that's burnt from Starbucks. You're a serf. That's what you are. That's what I am. And the moment we realize it, the moment that we have power in our hands in order to be able to get rid of the system by stopping the production for them, well, that's when the exploitation stops. Let's get rid of the system. Anyways, let's continue on, because I'm going on a rant and I can feel it coming, and I'm not going to derail myself, but let's go.
But anybody who's worked at the manufacturer level at a dealership knows that this is not the way it works out. There's a really big problem with modern manufacturers and how they pay for warranty. A lot of times manufacturers pay a lower rate than what a normal customer would pay for, right? So as an example, as a former FCA, Stellantis, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep Tech, whatever you want to call it these days, we sold, I think they still sell them. They were going to discontinue them. I know that for sure, but we sold a small diesel engine called the Eco Diesel. We put it in half-ton trucks and Grand Cherokees and Wranglers for some awful reason. What you need to know is the 3-liter Eco Diesel is a pile of junk. And I've read people say that they love them to death. I've been inside the things. They are garbage. Initially, when this engine hit the sales floor, there was a bugaboo. The 3-liter Eco Diesel is an Italian engine. And initially, when this thing was released, they were using an oil in that engine with a viscosity level that was way too low for it. And from the jump, these things were breaking crankshafts in half. So there was a recall. We basically just did an oil change, put a different viscosity oil in it, and put a different sticker on the oil cap. That was a whole recall, saved the engines, right? Now, at the time, a customer paid labor rate. So it's your car, you're paying for the repair. A customer repair labor rate to pull an Eco Diesel out of a half-ton truck and replace it was about 19 or 20 hours. The manufacturer labor rate, the warranty time, was 9 hours. 9 hours to get the truck rolled into the shop, the cab pulled off of it, the engine pulled out, put back in, the cab put back on top, and that thing running and driving out of the shop in 9 hours. Now, let's get back in the productivity meetings. You would have these one-on-ones with management, and they'd look at your hours that you were producing in a given pay period, and they'd say, well, you're not doing as many hours as we think you could do. We think you could do more hours. We don't understand why. Your hours are so low. We need you to bump up those hours. We need you to sell more services, sell induction services, sell brake fluid services, do really good inspections, upsells. That's what you need to do, which is a whole other conversation we can have.
So wait. Hang on. Why in the world are auto technicians being tasked with being salespeople? That's like being in a furniture factory and building furniture, but then you're tasked with also trying to sell the furniture. I'm like, no. That's the sales associate's job. That's not the manufacturer's job. Why are you asking somebody who helps make cereal at a cereal plant to help you sell the cereal to consumers at the grocery store? And are you paying them extra to do it? No. Why are you? That's one job, and this is another. Why are you telling people to upsell? Why are you trying to push more of these things on there? It's like they came in for an oil change, but then it's like, well, you need all these other different things added on because we see you need this. And you guys know, a lot of you guys who have cars who go to get repairs, you know exactly how it is. It's you go in to get one thing done, and then next thing you know, they want to do all this other stuff, and you're like, no, that's not what I asked for. I just asked for this one thing. And a lot of times, the reason why you guys only ask for that one thing is because that's what you could afford, right? If you could afford all the other extras, then you would get them, but you can't afford it. So that's why you're only getting the one essential thing to keep that car running. Are you low on coolant for your air conditioning? Yeah, but is that essential to get the car from point A to point B? No. So therefore, okay, yeah, just do the oil change or just change the brakes. Change the brakes, leave the air conditioning alone. I'll deal with that later. Especially since you know it's about to be wintertime anyway. So it's like they're always trying to turn people into salespeople so that they can make more money and extract more. But it's like, why not just hire somebody in sales to do it? Crazy, man. And by the way, most people do not like sales. I did sales. I didn't like it.
If you want to have that conversation. But basically, it was management telling you weren't working hard enough. And I had a manager that would say something consistently in these meetings that the one thing he loved to say was, I want to make you more money. This is going to make you more money. This is what can we do to make you and your family more money. We want to take care of your family. We want you to make more money. I want to do this for you. You know how I was talking about this is basically commission? The thing about knowing the customer pay labor rate, the hourly rate per job, and what I was making per hour is you can go back and do some really basic math. Now, if I took the customer labor rate, how much we charged you an hour, and how much I was making an hour, I could do some really basic math to figure out percentages. At our customer labor rate, my take as a technician was about 19%. I don't want to get too wishy-washy here, but I had legitimate financial interest into my job at that point. I had spent not as much as many other people, but over the course of my career, you could probably say somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 in tools. By that,
oh, this is something that a lot of people don't consider. Back in the day, when I was a sales associate for Sears, I used to work in the tools department. And you know who some of our biggest customers were? People who worked in auto tech, people who were auto technicians, marine tech, motorcycle tech. A lot of these people, they came in and bought the tools. And they would spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars at least a month just on tools, especially if they were just starting out. Because they had to get their tools in order to be able to afford it. And you needed good quality tools, not those cheap old tools that break after only a few fixes. You need something that was going to last. But the really good tools cost a lot of money. And so the problem is, like, they have to spend all that money, but they don't want to keep spending too much. Like, if you need a socket wrench or you need a torque wrench, you don't want to keep spending that money over and over. You want that thing to essentially outlive how much it costs. You want it to be so that it only costs you pennies on a dollar for the life that you've had it. But the problem is, you have to spend really good money now in order to get something that lasts. But if the company is not paying you well enough in order to be able to afford your tools so that you can do the job, what's the point of actually staying with that company or staying in the position of being an auto mechanic? It doesn't make sense. Can you imagine? I was in the culinary field. Can you imagine us having to buy our own knives and buy our own tools, You have your fillet knife, your boning knife, your cleaver, your chef knife, your paring knife, your steel, your peeler. You have all these different things you have to buy, and really good knives are expensive as hell. And so imagine us having to buy that, but then we don't get paid enough in order to be able to use those knives properly in the kitchen. Right? That's weird, right? And the crazy part is 99% of restaurants, they already have those tools in the kitchen. So my question is like, why don't we have those tools in these shops? And you can say, well, people may steal them, things like that. That's true. But I mean, if you have good quality tools in all these shops, then you don't have to worry about that. Just weird to me, man. Let's continue on.
At that point, I had spent over a decade honing my craft, becoming a great technician, working very hard, doing great diagnoses. I was the one with the skill. I was the one doing the repairs. And the people sitting at the desks up front printing paper were making more than I was. Fully certified, almost a decade of experience with this dealer, and my take was just 19%. That boss that would tell me that they just want me to make more money, they want to take care of me, they want to take care of my family, there's a really easy way to do that. I can work as hard as I want, and I'm never going to break that 19%. So what about the other 81%? The harder I work, the more money you make. And you're already making more money than I am. So don't give me this bullcrap about how you want to take better care of me. You want to make more money for you, from me. That line would always drive me insane. You want to take better care of me and my family? Bump me up from the 19% then.
That's capitalism. Sir, you just figured out exactly what capitalism is. This gentleman just explained from a mechanic's perspective what capitalism is. Let me tell you something. One of the best quotes I've ever heard was from Professor Richard Wolff. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, if you're looking for companies to pay you what you're worth, you're never going to find it, because if they paid you what you're actually worth, they wouldn't make profit. And what's the goal of every company? Profit. That's the goal. If they paid you legitimately what you're worth, then they would not make profit. Because ultimately, who's the one that creates the profit for them? You make that. They don't make that. And you can say, well, they provide the building, they provide the advertising, things like that. All that is also built off of you. It's built off of you, the workers, and the workers that came before you. All that's built off of the workers. Even if, let's say, is one person that started a business, but then they hired somebody. Well, guess what? They hired that person, but they paid them less than what the value they produced. And in that difference of what they produced versus what they were paid, that difference was used to buy things like advertisement, better facilities, better computer systems, POS systems, maybe better vehicles, improved infrastructure, things like that. Ultimately, that's how it works. But they never pay you exactly what you're worth, because if you got exactly what you're worth, they wouldn't make profit. And a huge chunk of that profit doesn't even go to the infrastructure, to the workplace around you. No, it goes into their pockets so that they can have a nicer house, so that they can have a nicer car, so that they can have a nice boat, so that they can go on those trips, so that they can take more time away from work than you do, even though you're the one that's creating all the value. And a lot of times, this is what happens. See, this was just a layman's version of explaining what capitalism is to just the regular everyday person. Because how he's operating is basically no different than a barista, no different than a person that is flipping burgers and salting fries at a fast food joint, no different than that dude that's sweeping up all the popcorn in the theater, no different than that Walmart greeter, no different than that person that is working in a doctor's office that is intaking patients, no different than that certified nursing assistant that's taking the blood pressures, taking the temperatures, and doing all these other different things that the nurses can't or won't do, and the doctors definitely won't do, or can't or are unable to do because of time constraints. And so here's the thing. The people who are what I call foundational workers are never paid what they're worth, and they're never compensated in a way that makes it fair. And it's also always looked down upon. You're always looked down upon if you are in that position, because it's like, well, you're not making as much as everybody else. And so therefore, you are less dignified. You are worth less because you're in that position doing that job. But if people were paid what they're actually worth in those positions, they wouldn't be seen that way. But they are, because that's also part of the culture of capitalism. The culture of capitalism basically deems that even though without you, nothing runs, they have to make it seem like that you are just another piece that is replaceable, and therefore you don't matter. You can take the average person and train them in how to be a CEO, CFO, COO, operations director. You can teach them that, and guess what? They will learn quickly and they will be able to run a company if you train them. The problem is a lot of people don't get that training because there's a barrier there. One of those barriers is college. And people say, well, they just don't have the capacity. No, a lot of them have the capacity. It's just the system is built so that it's only available to a select few. One of my favorite quotes, and sorry for going on this rant, but this really, grinds my gears, burns my biscuits, and droops my flowers. One of my favorite quotes is by Albert Einstein. And it goes like this. Everyone is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it is stupid. I want you to sit with that. Because everybody has the aptitude for something. Everybody has the ability for something. But the problem is, because you don't fit into this neat little box that is perpetuated by capitalism, well, then you're not enough. And so that's one of the reasons why so many people feel like they're just not enough in this world. Because you don't fit in that neat little box that capitalism says that you must fit into in order to increase profit. Profit for whom? Not for everybody, just for a very select small few. So I'm in my rant there. Let's continue on, shall we?
There are only so many hours in the day. I can work as hard as I want and I can produce a lot of hours, but you're still going to be richer than me. And you're going to be richer than me because of people like me that are doing the work for you. So don't feed me this line about how you want to work harder for me. I bring this up, and I'm sure it's a tale as old as time, and I'm sure it goes back farther than I realize. But at some point in this nation, We prioritized management over labor.
Ooh, 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 bars. That's what I'm talking about. Why in the world are we prioritizing the management and coordination of labor over the labor itself? Because without the labor, there'll be nothing to coordinate. There'll be nothing to manage. If there's a carriage of bulls, let's say a plow, and you have two bulls pulling this plow, and then you have the farmer sitting on top of the plow with the whip, or he has the reins trying to drive the plow in a specific direction. What is more important? Is it the person with the reins or the whip that is directing the bulls, or are the bulls the most important part of the plow? Now, here's the thing, right? And I'm just talking about management. I'm not talking about the CEOs, CFOs, the owners. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm just talking about management. The manager can, if those cows, those bulls suddenly disappear, okay, that manager can try to pull that plow, but he ain't getting far. No, well, right? But then you juxtapose that with the two bulls. Now the bulls, now that plow will go, but the direction, may seem like weird because, they're trying to, they won't go in a straight line. And so what's more important? The thing is that the results happen when you have the workers. Now with management, it's a relative importance, but it's not absolutely important. They are slightly less prioritized, in my opinion, because they're the ones that coordinate things. That being said, then we should have a more hyper focus on the laborers than we do management. And that hyper focus should be on not just the importance in our minds, but also the compensation and the treatment. But we inverse it. And why do we inverse it? Because we want to have this hierarchy of systems. He's just explained capitalism, guys, in a very easy to understand fashion.
And I would just like to know why the people that sit at a desk and look at spreadsheets all day are worth more than the people that put in the time, the money, the energy, and actually honed a craft. Because to tell you the truth, with maybe a few weeks of experience, I could do what my manager could do. But I guarantee you he could not have walked out in that shop and did what I did. And I'm going to get people who are like, well, stand in a manager's shoes. All you do all day is put out fires and it's rough. And yeah, I get that it's stressful and it's difficult, but so is racing the clock as a certified mechanic, knowing that there is no way in hell I can completely replace this engine in 9 hours, and I am going to have to figure out a way to make that time up elsewhere. And wouldn't you know it, the next job on my list is warranty too. I took a pay cut for my current job, but I got better benefits and a better home life. And to me, more importantly than anything, my job is not to make somebody else rich. You are not cattle, and this is not the industrial age. I think it's time more people recognize that.
Boom. There you go. You have free will, and we recognize the power that we have collectively. And I think one of the things that we have to realize is no matter what, like these companies, they absolutely need us, but they don't want you to know that they need us. Because once you realize that, they're finished. let's share this as well, because one of my things, because and I'm gonna share the link to that video so you guys can watch the rest. But I want to share this as well. This is an article actually from Jay Leno. Is from a Jay Leno monologue. So it says, Al writes, why we have a new car models every year, a Jay Leno monologue. So let's just go over it. So let me share this with y'all. So he talks about how much he loves cars, but he wants to get into this. He goes, but where did this whole new car every year thing came from? You might ask, well, it started with a little company called Chevrolet. Back in the earlier days of the auto industry, cars didn't change much from year to year. If you had a Model T in 1910, it wasn't going to look all that much different from a Model T in 1920. And good old Henry Ford wanted it that way. In fact, he thought the Model T was the only car you'd ever need. But then came along Chevrolet with this revolutionary idea. What if they updated their cars every year? Says at first, people were skeptical. Why do we need a new car every year? They said. Can't we just stick with the old one? But Chevy knew that what they were doing. They knew that if they could make people feel like they were missing out on the latest and greatest, they could sell more cars. It's like that FOMO thing kids are all talking about. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. But boy, were Chevy right. People went nuts for the new cars. Every year, they line up at the dealership, eager to get their hands on the newest model. It was like a game of one-upmanship. Who could have the latest and greatest car on the block? And it wasn't just Chevy either. Other car companies caught on, and pretty soon it was a race to see who could come up with the flashiest, most attention-grabbing new models. It says, now I know what you're thinking. Jay, isn't it just a big, dirty marketing ploy? A way for car companies to get us to buy more cars than we really need? And yeah, it kind of is. But you know what? Who cares? I love cars. You love cars. We all love cars. And that means we have to drool over shiny new models and special editions every year. I say bring it on. Now, here's the thing. Jay Leno is a millionaire. He got money. He got his. And so for him, it's like, yeah, it's exploitative. Yeah, but you know what? Who cares? You know what? I care. I care. Because you know what? I don't want to be exploited. Maybe you can afford to be exploited with all your millions of dollars, but I can't be exploited. And many people who are even watching me right now, they can't afford that. They can't afford to be getting all, a new car every single year or every 4 or 5 years. A lot of people have cars that are 10 plus years old that they're hanging by a string. Why? Because number one, they can't afford it because wages haven't kept up with inflation. Car prices have ran amok. And also, let's be real, these car companies, they almost completely killed the public transportation industry that was vibrant in the early 1900s because they wanted to make more money. Because they weren't fine with just having one car and just having something that maybe you just need to do maintenance and repairs on, throughout this lifetime. Let's continue on. It says, so there you have it, folks. The history of the car hustle as told by yours truly. Now, if you excuse me, I got to polish up my 67 Stingray. It looks a little too last year for my taste. Anyways, so what he's really getting into, and one of the things I would like to point to is the reason why cars are built every year is not only so that people can get the latest and greatest, but they also have embedded in the system the means for it to break down over time so that you have to get a new one. They don't want to make cars as perfect as possible. They want to make it so that it lasts long enough so that you have to get a new one. And what I'm talking about is called planned obsolescence. Planned obsolescence. If you have never heard of it, then that's by design. But let's share this. It says automakers release a new model year annually, primarily for marketing and planned obsolescence. By creating an artificial sense that a vehicle is the latest and greatest, manufacturers stimulate continuous demand. It also helps them track production changes to comply with evolving safety and emissions regulations. But they can always do that just with the same model. It's just they just wanted to make more money. And so that's one of the biggest things. Planned obsolescence means that they make it so that it breaks so that you have to spend more money. But does that benefit the worker? No. And for sure, it's not benefiting the auto mechanic. And now a lot of these schools, look, their attendance for auto mechanics have dropped. And so I know a lot of people who go, but James, we're trying to encourage these people, instead of going to college, to go to vocational school, go to technical school, right? Which is good. Yes, you definitely should. But I don't want people to think that that's going to be the end all be all or the answer to all of our issues. Because just like how just like how our industries have become oversaturated with college degrees, it can also become oversaturated with vocational education too, as well, because that could be the next new wave. Here's the problem. The system is the issue. Let's stop trying to put Band-Aids on these things and let's actually change the system overall. And so people talk about, oh, well, you should get new vocations. Yes, if you can. But here's the problem. A lot of times people will think to themselves, like, for instance, I was suggested that, get into information technology, get into IT. Guess what? That ship sailed years ago. And by the time, and talk to my sister, Savvy Savs, right? She worked in higher ed. She will be the first one to tell you, by the time you learn what industry is on and popping, it is too late. Too late. Because now that everybody else has peak game and now they're getting into it, guess what? That industry gets oversaturated. And then when it comes to pay, not making much anymore. And now that people know that these car companies are not paying their auto technicians enough to be an actual living wage, guess how many people are now going to start going into auto tech? They're not really going to be going in there much. Because what's the point of getting into a vocation if you know that these companies are not really going to pay you much of anything anyway? What's the point? Gosh, there's so much I want to say, but I got to end the segment. But this is one of the reasons why we need to stop thinking of things as just, we have to attack this one little sector here and there. While it is important to have some focus more on different parts, we cannot take our eyes off the ball when it comes to this system. We have to think in terms of systems, not just solutions and fixes in these little areas. Because when you start thinking of solutions in these little areas here and there, that's when you're focusing on what we call reformism. And look, I can shape some doo-doo in the form of chocolate ice cream, and then I can add the sprinkles, I can add the whipped cream, I can do everything I want, but it's still doo-doo. I can freeze it, it's still doo-doo. So what are you going to do? Are you going to toss it out? I definitely sure as hell would. I wouldn't keep that around. So why are we trying to fashion something that was never meant for us to actually thrive in order to make it thrive? It's not going to happen. It never will happen. That's like trying to breathe underwater as a person with lungs. No matter how many times you breathe it in, you're still going to drown. That means you got to get out of that system into open air, into an environment that's actually conducive for you to breathe. But some people are still so stuck on trying to breathe in that water. And now look, you're drowning. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much to everybody. Let's get into the comments. And also, I'm going to give a shout out to the patrons, and we will move on into the next segment. All right, everybody. So here's a shout out to the patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, I would not be able to do this work. Thank you so very much to everybody. Here are the Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters. We have Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And thank you so much to new members, past, present, and future. Without you guys, I would not be able to do this work. And if you guys haven't already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. And if you're watching this on the rewatch, go ahead and give it a hype if you actually think that you found value in this stream or in this channel. So thank you very much for that. Let's get into the comments, guys. Let me check on the Kick side, and let's check on the Rumble side. And by the way, Roger, good find on this one. This one's really good. And if you guys have any stories you guys like to submit for me to take a look at, and if I can get to it, then please, my email is at the bottom of every single video. Guys, go ahead and take a look at that. I deeply appreciate it. Sometimes, there are videos that people, or not videos, but there's stories that people find interesting that they're just like, that looks really cool. I think I would like to see that expanded on. Go ahead and shoot me an email. See how it goes. All right. So thank you so very much. Roger, who's been a member for 4 months, says, thanks for doing this story. And midden ballerina equals stripper. Roger? Look, I'm not getting in a tutu for nobody. Okay? Nobody. Now, will somebody get in a tutu for me? I don't know. Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's get into this. Let me see. Edward says companies are making people do the work of 4 employees. Yep. And these CEOs are making millions upon millions of dollars. Edward also says professional management exploits the mechanics and other trades in order to maximize profits. Yep. Holly says this man knows. Yes, he does. Yep. Roger says worker co-ops. Yeah. That would definitely be a huge help. Golden Monarch says, this reminds me of what Trump said the other day. America was made by people like, not the laziness like the farmer or the fisherman. Without the farmer and the fisherman, their asses wouldn't be eating. My gosh. And here's the crazy part. Oh my God, I feel another rant coming on. But these are the same people that will think to themselves, oh, well, you know what? If you're not grinding and working your fingers to the bone 366 and a half days a year, if you're not working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, then you know what? You're not doing enough. When in reality, the earth don't even work like that. Like, for instance, let's say you lived off the land, right? And then you have to go by, planting and harvesting your food. You have to do that. How often do you have to work a week in order to be able to plant and harvest food, take care of animals that you may end up consuming, right? How often do you have to work on a regular basis just for yourself? Not to make for other people, but just for yourself. How often do you think you would have to work? You would actually probably end up working less than what we do right now in this modern age. But for some reason, people think that if you're not harming yourself to work for others and to help them make massive profits, then you're not doing enough. That's capitalist mindset. That's internalized capitalism. That's part of, and it's also part of colonialism, and we need to decolonize our minds out of that. Thank you so very much for pointing that out, Golden Monarch. Sean says there's also been talks of ridding work from home away. Yeah, absolutely. Yup. All because they get tax incentives. They get tax incentives for having these buildings, and they want to make an excuse for having those buildings. So they force you to go back into the office. That's basically what it is. Thank you for this super chat, Roger. He says, blame the Dodge brothers. Look up the 1919 Michigan Supreme Court decision, Ford versus Dodge, that established a shareholder primacy. Quality went down, quantity went up. Yeah. I gotta take a look at that and do my research and do a more hyper focus on that, because ultimately that is also part of capitalism, but that was the next stage into making it so that you have to maximize profits from a legal framework. It's not just something that's you're voluntary to do. It's not that CEOs just do it for the love of the game. No, they are legally bound to maximize profits for companies. That's why. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Thank you for this, Sean. He says there are also talks of ridding work from home away from people. And in Los Angeles, a friend of mine, or is that Louisiana? I'm sorry. A friend of mine works from home most of the work week. Without it equals more stress. Yeah. And here's the crazy part. If you want, you know what? Because we're going to start talking about mental health. And this is one of the things that get on my nerves. When companies talk about, oh my God, well, we have to focus more on your mental health because you guys are too stressed. And we want you guys to have a nice medical program so you guys can see a counselor because you guys are too stressed. Well, maybe if you made stress less, if you made work less stressful, if you didn't put so much on your workers and you also compensated them a little bit better, you would actually affect their mental health. But they don't want to hear that. They just want to hire somebody who is in the mental health field that is cool with the profit seeking of the corporations. And they will explain to you and how to deal with the system. And they won't tell you, well, this system really isn't natural for us. You just got to learn how to deal with it. And if you don't learn how to deal with it, then maybe that's a you problem. And it's not a you problem. Look, like one of my favorite sayings goes, if a flower doesn't grow, you change the environment in which the flower grows, not the flower. The problem is you got so many people trying to change the flower. It's like, no, change the soil, change the soil composition, add some sunlight or reduce the sunlight, add more water, reduce the water, make sure that it has nutrients put into the soil. Why are you trying to change the flower? The flower is the flower. The problem is that you just want to force it into an environment that it does not work in, it does not operate in. And the problem is that we human beings, we do not operate well in a system that exploits us because we're humans. And they try to roboticize, mechanize us into being able to accept this. This is why they're trying to focus on automation, because they're trying to make it so that, well, guess what? A robot doesn't get tired. A robot doesn't complain. But the problem is that you live in a society of humans. And we don't operate like that. It's nerve-wracking, guys. It's nerve-wracking. And you got so many people that will just say whatever comes out of their pie hole. Like, let me show you this with y'all. Because a lot of people don't realize, like, how often I get slurs and hate thrown my way whenever I say something, especially on this hell site called Twitter. And then they're just like, and they think, well, no, you're wrong because it worked for me, when in reality, it ain't working for all y'all. 99% of y'all, it ain't working for you. You're just bootlegging. So look at this. Because this report came up, and I was going to talk about this today, but I said screw it, I'm just doing 2 segments. But it said Fox is buying Roku in a $22 billion deal, right? And I said capitalism breeds competition and innovation. Meanwhile, and here's the crazy part, right? I'm alluding to the fact that capitalism breeds monopolization. That's what it breeds. And people are losing their minds over it. They're losing their shit. They're going, oh, well, you're wrong. No, because if that was the case, we would have more companies competing and lowering their prices and then also paying us better wages to compete. But they're not. They're consolidating and they're taking more away from us. Why? Because the goal in capitalism is monopolization. And the end goal of capitalism is to return back to its original form, which is slavery. And people look at me like I'm crazy because they're so indoctrinated in their minds to think that this is the system that is best for us. It's just like the old saying goes. A person will imagine the end of the world before they will ever imagine the end of capitalism because they've been conditioned to think that this is natural when it isn't. And so, look at what they said to me. Look at what people, and some of these people would be like, oh, they're bots. Some of these people are actually real people. And they'll say things like this because guess what? That's what they that's what they actually feel in their hearts. Now, this is actually a good one. Capitalism breeds billionaires in despair, planetary destruction for everyone else. This is from Amazon Piss Jugs. They're a great account to follow. Vietnam says Tubi better not ever sell out the people. Unfortunately, I said Tubi is owned by Fox, right? Now, look at what this person says. We don't live in a capitalist society, you arsler. We live in a crony capitalist society. Here's the crazy part about saying, oh, it's not capitalism, it's crony capitalism. Baby, let me tell you something. I don't care if it's mashed potatoes, French fries, scallop potatoes au gratin, potato chips. It could be hash browns. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's still potatoes. At the end of the day, it's still potatoes. You still made the same stuff. Therefore, capitalism is the problem. Like, for instance, if we talk about, oh my God, serial killers are a problem. It's not serial killers, it's short serial killers. What? That doesn't make any sense. And the only thing that makes crony capitalism is people bringing in their family members and their buddies in order to be part of the rigged system in order to make more profits. But baby, that's how capitalism has been operating ever since. Cronyism is a part and parcel and key component of capitalism. Like, what? It's crazy. Cronyism is part of capitalism. So saying crony capitalism doesn't really mean much. This is how you know people don't know what words mean. Because they'll say idiot things like this. And then you have, it does when the government does its job and prevents frivolous mergers from taking place. It doesn't, though. Look what they did with deregulation, and that happened under a Democrat. Look what deregulation did. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 that was passed by Bill Clinton. When they got rid of the fairness doctrine, I think when Reagan was in office, all these things led to us having more monopolization. This person, you can guess what this word is. Capitalism breeds, and I'm not going to say it because they basically say in the F slur, but without actually saying it because they don't want to get reported because there's a bunch of cowards until we're controlled by one, right? And then this person says you wouldn't take $22 billion, and I'm like, that's not the point. The point is that we shouldn't be allowing corporations to consolidate so that they give us crappy service and that they're exploiting us. And so then guess what? When you finally use Roku again, it now is under one umbrella and you can't really go anyplace else. So, and then this person says, hey, Kami, this is a more efficient use of capital. No, it's not. Because ultimately, what's going to happen to the people who use Roku? The service is going to go down. It's going to be more crappier. And where are people going to go? What? Are they going to go to Amazon Fire Stick? Right? Crazy. And so these are some of the things, and I get constant berating and insults and homophobic, racist insults just for explaining how this system operates. And when it comes to mental health, like, we have to learn to stay away from these people that take away our peace. Now, I showed you guys that because I want to find out exactly how you guys are doing. But before we do that, I want to also go into this. Thank you very much for this, Roger. He says, oh, I already got the research for you. I'll send again. Thank you very much for that, Roger. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sean. He says Los Angeles. And then Edward says capitalism is a very much the haves and have-nots. It's Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Capitalism is individualism, not helping the masses. Exactly. Now, one of the things I do want to get into, I don't have a thumbnail for this, but it's essentially like a mental health check-in. Because June is a special month in two ways for me, right? It is Pride Month, but it's also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. When it comes to how we are feeling, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And no, really. Because a lot of us are going through so much. I have family members that are going through a lot right now. I'm going through a lot right now. You know what? One thing is kind of interesting. I'm realizing this. I am too woke for my job. I am too woke for my job right now. Meaning I measure everything by how I see exploitation. If we're understaffed, and the thing is, like for instance, here's the thing. We can be what I consider to be understaffed, but to the company, it's not understaffed. To them, it's not understaffed. And I can't necessarily blame management because the managers are only given a budget for so much. Whether it's a budget of hours that they can give out or a budget how much they can spend within that department or within that store. I can only, or restaurant, I cannot necessarily blame them because they're dealt a hand. And we also have to remember, managers are also workers. They're more privileged. Yes, they receive better compensation, but they're still workers. They still have to work to make a wage in order to be able to live and survive. And so the reason why I say I'm too woke is because now in my mind, at my job, I'm looking at the corporate people. I'm like, you know what? You're making this millions of dollars off of our backs. You're getting all these bonuses. And then what? We're not even making a livable wage. I've shared it before, but actually it comes out next month. And the National Low Income Housing's Out of Reach report that's done every single year. The next one for 2026 is going to come out next month. They actually stated that in the state of Florida, you need to make $37.27 per hour in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in the state of Florida. Now, in 2024, Florida was the 5th most expensive city in the state. It dropped down to the 6th in 2025. It might hover around between 5 and 6. I'm guessing for 2026. If it goes up, then that'll be even more of an indicator for how I've been feeling about this city. But the thing is like these people, they know this. But then they'll say, oh, we got to stay competitive with our other competitors. And when they say competitive, it's not for your benefit. Competitive means for them is how low can we pay our workers while still being able to retain them. So it's almost like a balance. It's like we need to pay them low enough so that we can keep more profits coming in, but we also want to keep it just a little bit above everybody else, just so that we'll also constantly have applications coming in, so that we can constantly have that revolving door of new applicants. Because if the pay is very high, then guess what? Our profits go down. But if our pay is too low, we'll constantly have hemorrhaging workers and we won't be able to get enough coming in. So that's for them. But here's the crazy part. If you were to pay your workers enough to take the issue of money off the table, number one, your turnover rate would drop like a rock. Number one. Number two, worker satisfaction would go up, which would also in turn make customer satisfaction go up. Now, would the people at the top, the CEOs, CFOs, COOs, and all these directors and presidents and vice presidents, would they be able to make as much? No. But that's okay. Because guess what? These people at the top, they're already living a decent life. Why not extend that to the workers? And the crazy part is, here in Florida, they put the hammer down hard on anybody that tries to unionize. I wish a lot of these companies were worker cooperatives, but they would destroy the land that we live on before they ever allow workers to have power like that. And so, when I'm at work and I see that we're struggling to be able to get through the shift and there's not enough people, customers may have to wait, or it's not customers have to wait because, of course, customer is always first. But then it's like, don't get mad if we leave late, because if we're leaving late, it's because we didn't have enough people to shut everything down. And we were constantly having to deal with customers all the time. And so because I have to deal with customers all the time, that means all the other duties that I have to take care of, that takes a back seat until we close. And then once we close, then I can focus on that. And then once I focus on that, that puts us behind. So then we're leaving out late. But don't come to me and say, hey, we need to start doing this faster. No. Absolutely not. I am not a machine. They are not a machine. They are not machines. Guess what? You need to do two things. Increase the budget so that management can actually put more workers in when it comes to these shifts, whether it be opening, mid-shift, or closing, and also pay these workers to take the issue of money off the table so that they could be able to be better workers and not have to be worried about stuff that they need to afford, so that they won't have to worry about, how am I going to make my rent? My car note is due and I'm going to be late on it. Or how am I going to be able to pay my light bill? Or, oh my God, daycare, the amount for daycare just went up. Or if I lose this shift at the job, even though my kid is sick, if I call today off, I'm not going to have enough money on my next check in order to be able to make rent. And my landlord doesn't accept partial payments. And so instead of constantly allowing your workers to go through that, and please do not tell me about mental health when the very decisions that are being made in these corporate offices are literally affecting our mental health every day. But then you want to spend that money on some mental health expert at these corporate offices, but the thing that actually affects our mental health, you guys aren't willing to do because it affects your profits. But you're willing to spend money on this expert instead. Why? Because it's cheaper. That's like sending somebody to be like, oh, I'm a financial literacy teacher, educator. And so we're going to help you guys with your financial literacy to make sure that you guys are able to maximize your amount of money so that you guys won't be in so much debt. But the problem is, baby, you can't financial literacy your way out of a capitalist system into something that is more in line with upward mobility. You can't do it. You cannot. Because capitalism needs a huge chunk of people to be the have-nots. So these are some of the things that are on my mind. And so I'm just like, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm a little too woke. I'm a little too woke right now. Because I'm just looking at everything. I'm like, man, how much does that cost? I'm like, wait, we can spend money on that, but we don't have enough money to pay for an extra person to be on shift? You guys didn't give the managers the budget in order to be able to have 1 or 2 extra people on that shift? Why are we constantly operating on skeleton crews? Why? Oh, because you guys want to maximize profit. Okay, I see. But that profit, how does that help us? How does that help us in the long run? Because then even if we were full-time, once we hit 40 hours, oh, you guys got to clock out. You guys got to go home. You can't go over 40 hours. What? But you got us on a skeleton crew. What are you talking about? Oh, you mean you don't want me to work more than 40 hours now? Even though we are perpetually understaffed? Being a worker means you're in constant state of stress on top of what you're dealing with at home. How are y'all doing, man? How are y'all doing? Sean says too woke for my job. Yeah, absolutely. Killian Grigor says, remember when the minimum wage was once called the minimum living wage? Then in the 80s, they dropped the living and changed the minimum wage to mean the limited wage you can pay someone before breaking the law. Amen. Amen. Yes. That's what they did. All right. How are y'all doing? Are you okay? Because I know a lot of things have happened so far this year, and a lot of you guys are not. A lot of you guys are not in the best place right now, because we're constantly seeing what's going on. We're constantly seeing war, strife, awful things continuously happen. I came across a story. I didn't talk about it because I just learning about it, but I don't know if I'll do a video clip on it. But so many of these things happen, and then people, they just don't. You never know what people are going through. I'll just put it that way. You never know what people are going through. Let me share this with y'all. Because we already know like what this means. Let me share. Shout out to 50 Shades of Way. Wonderful account to follow, by the way. They say a 1-year-old in Mississippi was shot and killed by police after a cop opened fire on a vehicle involved in an alleged shoplifting incident at a Walmart. An adult was also critically wounded. A key witness says they saw 2 women leaving the store with an infant. Cohen Cartier Wiley, and a box of diapers. Relatives deny that Wiley's mother and aunt were shoplifting, with some saying they had a digital receipt on a phone. This is a national tragedy. The officers knew about Cohen Cartier Wiley being in the car before they opened fire. Let's highlight this. The officers knew about Cohen Cartier Wiley being in the car before they opened fire. Now, firing into a moving vehicle in a crowded parking lot over a non-violent offense is both criminally reckless and completely unjustified. R.I.P. Cohen Cartier Wiley. This is the little boy they shot and killed. This little life they shot and killed over a box of diapers. This baby they shot and killed over a box of fucking diapers. And this is why I was asking you guys if you're okay. I'm blanking on the correct pronunciation of their last name, but Cyrus, the young 14-year-old that was shot, I think, in 2023 in a gas station in South Carolina. Completely innocent and shot and killed, and this murderer got off scot-free. You never know what people are going through. And you know what the crazy part about this is? This little baby boy that was shot and killed, it is no different than what we have been experiencing in this country for 400 years. And you know what the sad part about this is? Palestinians are going through the exact same thing right now and dealing with the deaths of their little ones too. Because the same system that shot and killed that little boy and the same people are being trained by the people in West Asia to shoot and kill little brown kids as well. Little brown babies. And so when it comes to the collective mental health of us as a people, not just those of us who are Black, but those of us here in the West, those of us around the world, we collectively have so much trauma. And it's all because the system that wants to continue to exploit us so that they can have everything and we can have nothing. I want you to pay attention to these stories, but at the same time, work and get to know your neighbors so that you can help each other, so that we can push past this system, because I do not want to see a story like this ever again. It's also Men's Health Awareness Month. Think about what a father's feeling right now. Think about what that little boy's father is feeling. Because a lot of times we men, we have this weight on our shoulders that we feel like we have to protect what's ours, right? And you can go across race, nationality, and you feel that weight. And how does a man feel when he feels like he failed? There is a grown man right now that is broken because he lost his baby boy. And the grief that father feels, that Black father feels about his baby boy dying, is the same grief that a father is feeling right now in Gaza. It's the same feeling that a father is feeling right now in Lebanon, in Congo, in Somalia. Same grief from the same system. And I do not want us to be struck into a position where we are so overwhelmed that it puts us in a state of shock and makes us freeze. No, we have to learn and adapt and move, but also help each other to get out of this situation that we are collectively as a human family. But that also means doing the work and getting out of our own way. And what getting out of our own way means is taking some of that bigotry that we may be holding in our hearts because of what white supremacy and capitalism has instilled in us and getting rid of it. So some of y'all who may be watching, especially who are watching for the first time, learn about what anti-Blackness is and fight like hell to do the work to get it out of your system. Learn what real xenophobia is. Get it out of your system and start to do the work to unify with people around the world. Learn what ableism is, and queer and homophobia and transphobia is, and work to get that out of your system so that we can move towards real liberation. Learn what misogyny and misogynoir is. So that we can get rid of these things, so that we can move together. And some of you are going to look at me like I'm crazy. But that just tells me that you have a lot more work to do. How are you doing? Are you okay? If you're not, that is okay. Because we're here to support each other. Sean says, last thing I would ever want to do is eventually hold myself out. That's for damn sure. We're workers. It's too late. Kyria Grigor says, I feel like the guy in the airport screaming about the Epstein files every day, but what else can I do? Shock in American citizens that are not one uprising over it. Learn from the sadness and use it as fuel to fight against what we're dealing with. Don't let it stop you, let it drive you. Hopefully, it'll drive enough of us to get to a point when I ask, are you okay? Collectively, we will all be able to say yes. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much. I hope that was a decent conversation for us to get into, but I felt it necessary. And thank you guys for staying for that part. Let's get into the final segment, and we will get into this because a lot has happened. So let's share this as well. So, of course, we talked about the unfixable, and really the system is unfixable. It has to be replaced. And we just did a check-in. So now we're going to get into what Trump said. I don't like it. And what does that mean? What does he mean by that? Well, he says this. I'm not happy with Israel. Was it a deal or was it not a deal? That's the question that many people are asking right now, especially as there has been a memorandum of understanding that has happened between the United States and Iran as the war is winding down to a close. Is it? Is it not? Well, really, the ball is in the United States court as we speak right now. I want to get into this because it especially means that there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation coming out of corporate media, but we want to dissect it all, and we have that for you here. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to start off with something true, and I want to give a shout out to David DeCamp of Anti-War News. They actually wrote an article about the U.S.-Iran deal. And so it says Israeli ministers say Israel isn't bound by U.S.-Iran deal, won't withdraw from Lebanon. So it says in the wake of the U.S. and Iran announcing a memorandum of understanding to end the conflict between the two nations that includes a ceasefire in Lebanon, Israeli ministers have said Israel isn't bound by the agreement. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz vowed that the IDF will not withdraw from its so-called security zones in southern Lebanon, which include a major swath of Lebanese territory, and will also continue the occupation in southwest Syria and Gaza. So I want to share with you guys the agreement, the memorandum of understanding, and there's a few points that are made in that memorandum of understanding. And so I'm going to read the memorandum of understanding so that everybody knows that this is not a treaty. This is not something necessarily like binding, but it's an understanding of what the United States and Iran agree to. But as we all know, the United States, the way that they operate, that is yet to be determined. So take the poll as well, and we'll share it towards the end. But let's take a look at the memorandum of understanding. So Ryan Rosbiani has done it once again. Great account to follow. Says the finalized Iran and U.S. memorandum of understanding from Iran's Mehr News says the details of this draft are as follows. Number one, permanent and immediate cessation of war on all fronts, including Lebanon. Two, the U.S. commitment to non-interference in Iran's internal affairs and respect for the sovereignty of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Three, complete lifting of the naval blockade within 30 days. Four, the U.S. commitment to withdraw its forces from around Iran. Five, reopening the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days under Iranian arrangements. Six, suspension of sanctions on the sale of oil, petrochemical products, and derivatives, and full access of Iran to its financial resources. Seven, the necessity for the U.S. and its allies to present reconstruction plans for Iran amounting up to at least $300 billion. I'm going to tell you right here, the necessity for the U.S. and its allies, that's the part that a lot of people are leaving out, and its allies to present reconstruction plans for Iran amounting up to $300 billion. Here's the thing. Because some people are going to have a problem with this. They're going to be like, oh my God, are we paying reparations to Iran? Well, let me tell you something. Who struck first? If the United States struck first, then guess what? Because Iran didn't start this. Like Michael Jackson said, the United States want to be starting something. And so now, guess what? Now you got to pay the piper. Because y'all started it, and now Iran's like, okay, part of that deal is you got to pay up for all the damage you caused. Because if y'all had never started that war with Iran, then we wouldn't have to be in this mess in the first place. But now, you done tore up many areas. So now y'all got to pay. And it's not just the United States, it's all the countries involved that were going up against Iran. So it's not just the United States, it's also there are vassal states, as I like to call it, that are also footing the bill. Now, let's go even deeper into this. Number 8, 60 days of negotiations to reach a final agreement based on nuclear issues and the complete lifting of primary, secondary U.S. sanctions and UN Security Council and the International Atomic Energy Agency Board of Governors resolutions. Number 9, reiteration of the Iran's commitment under the NPT treaty not to produce the non-proliferation treaty not to produce nuclear weapons. Here's the crazy part. Iran didn't want to make nuclear weapons. They just wanted a nuclear power plant. But everybody's delusional because of Benjamin Netanyahu basically saying that, oh my God, they're 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. But in fact, they never wanted one. They actually just wanted to have some nuclear power because it'd be cleaner for them and as well as more efficient instead of using fossil fuels. They were actually trying to be more energy efficient and more green. But the United States didn't like that. Number 9, reiteration of Iran's commitment under the non-proliferation treaty to not produce nuclear weapons. Number 10, during the negotiation period, the U.S. has committed not to add forces in the region and to not impose new sanctions. So all of those bases that are surround, right? You have in Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia, UAE. It's like, yeah, nah, y'all ain't gonna have no bases over there. Get your people from around us. Get them out. That's what it is. Because here's the crazy part. Hypothetical. If I have a crew and we're beefing, and you have an apartment, and we all suddenly move into apartments right next door to you, and then through all the windows of those apartments surrounding you, we all surround and point our pew-pews at you. If we all are pointing the pew-pews at you, and guess what that means? That is a threat. How are you going to respond? How would a person reasonably respond with threats of violence? So part of that agreement, of course, is yes, get rid of all those military bases that are in all these other countries around us. Yeah, go. I think that's fair. $11, release of the $24 billion of Iran's blocked funds during the 60-day final negotiation period. Half of this amount must be made available to Iran before the start of negotiations. So there is money that has been frozen that belongs to Iran that the United States has frozen. That's Iran's money. We're not giving them an additional $24 billion. No, that's their money that we froze, their assets that we froze, because remember, the United States has the world's reserve currency. And so now we have to unfreeze it, but we're not giving out of our own money to them. It's their own money they've always had, but we just froze it. Now, number 12, formation of a supervisory mechanism to implement the agreement. 13, the final agreement will be approved by a UN Security Council resolution. 14, final negotiations will not begin before the release of half of Iran's blocked funds, suspension of Iran's oil sanctions, and lifting the naval blockade, and the final agreement will only cover the fate of enriched materials enrichment. Lifting the sanctions in Iran's economic reconstruction plan. Discussion about Iran's missile program and support for resistance groups are definitively removed from the agenda. So this also includes, and this is something I think that's important, is that when it comes to support for the Palestinian resistance, the resistance in Lebanon and these places, that is taking a back seat. It's not taken off the table. It's just taking a back seat. I think Iran is thinking in a more rational way. They're saying that we have to we have to inch this forward instead of making jumps or leaps. And so I think that's, I would like to talk to anti-imperialists who are, have family in the region, who are from the region, to get their view. Do they think it's a wise choice? Do they think it's unwise? I would love to be able to have a discussion with Professor Morandi about this. My channel is very small. I'm not sure if he'll ever come on, but smart guy. Not only that, but he's also very aware of, not just what goes on within West Asia, but also he knows how the United States operates. So his analysis will be very much needed here on this channel. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if these things are, sometimes I wonder if they're being a little too careful. But then at the same time, it's like you kind of need them to, because then, it takes heat off of Iran's back, so that if in case they continue to keep things up, then they can actually fight against, any Western aggression in the future. So that's the only thing. And I'm no expert, and so I don't want to pour dirt on this from my Western, imperial influenced decisions or mentality. You know what I mean? Because the thing is it's kind of like, nothing, Jon Snow. It's like, I only know my limited experience here living in the West. And they are operating from, we're not even in the same room. Right. And so I think it's best. That's why I'd rather just sit back and listen, and it's like, okay, they've been dealing with the United States for years. And really, let's be clear here. Iran, they are the adults in the room. Whereas the United States is like a hot-headed adolescent, and Israel is just a mean-spirited toddler that wants to kick your ankles and bite at your knees. That's what it feels like, right? And so that's how I'm looking at it right now. And so for me, it's like, no, don't implement your Western views onto them. Just sit back and listen, right? And that's kind of how I feel I should approach the subject. Because as somebody from the West, I feel it's wise that I don't censor my opinions. That's part of decolonizing my mind that I'm trying to work on. But let's get into this as well. So I want to see how Fox shares this, and then we will go into the rest. So let me see this. Let me show here. All right.
Fox News alert. President Trump says a deal with Iran is now complete. Moments ago, he announced on Truth Social that the Strait of Hormuz will open without a toll and that the authorized removal of the U.S. naval blockade will go in effect. Let's bring back Trey Yinks live from Tel Aviv with more details. Trey.
Yeah, Joey, a major announcement by President Trump after more than 100 days of a state of war between the United States and Iran. A deal has been reached. President Trump, I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade. Ships of the world, start your engines, let the oil flow. President Donald J. Trump. The president making this announcement on his birthday from the White House in Washington. There was another statement released by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, one of the key mediators in the conversations that led to this agreement to end the conflict between the United States and Iran. The Pakistani prime minister made a lengthy announcement thanking both the United States and Qatar for their role in reaching this agreement. The prime minister says there will be an official signing ceremony on Friday, June 19th in Switzerland. So again, a major development here as President Trump announces there is a deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is open once again. Those vessels that are trapped in the Persian Gulf will be able to export that crude oil from these Gulf countries. The naval blockade lifted on Iranian ports, and these detailed discussions on Iran's nuclear program set to begin. A major development in the Middle East, and for the first time in months, the region is breathing a sigh of relief.
Trey, I want to get into your experience, the conversations you've had with your sources, things of that nature. What does this mean in your mind right now? So we say we're removing the blockade. Obviously, we're not taking all of our naval assets out of the region. He says that he's authorized the toll-free opening, which means that he has assurances from Iran they're not going to try and put that toll on ships. I know that a senior administration official did a briefing a couple of days ago and said, hey, it'll be kind of a slow walk because certain companies, certain countries aren't as sure as others that that strait is not mined, and we're still kind of building confidence. So what do you think the first steps of third parties will be, those ships and other countries, things of that nature?
Well, I think that the president getting this across the finish line tonight was very significant because remember, Israel was bracing for the possibility of incoming Iranian ballistic missiles just hours ago.
Yeah.
And the president clearly got on the phone and told them, hold your fire, sign the deal. And that's what's happened here. And again, this announcement by the prime minister of Pakistan, along with the announcement by President Trump on Truth Social. The fact that there is an immediate opening of the Strait of Hormuz is significant because this is 50% of what the president was trying to get. The other 50% has to do with Iran's nuclear program, and these detailed discussions will take place in the days and weeks ahead. When we think back to when Operation Epic Fury began, there was one goal that President Trump had, and he told us this goal over and over again when we would speak with the president. He said, Iran cannot have a path to a nuclear weapon. And during Operation Epic Fury, not only was the Iranian military degraded, but you also had this naval blockade of Iranian ports that was crippling the Iranian economy. It put the Iranian regime up against a wall in a position where ultimately they had to make this deal. And when we...
Okay, so here's the issue with what corporate media like Fox News is telling you. They're taking what Donald Trump says wholesale. Fortunately for you guys, you are watching independent media and you know that you can't bullshit a bullshitter. So here's the thing. Donald Trump needed a deal. Iran didn't need a deal. Trump needed a deal. Because Iran was winning the war. It was Trump that called the timeout. He said, time. No. We can't, we can't keep this up. And so it's because of that. And also, Israel was about to get straight mollywopped. Remember what me and Theo Wilson were talking about last week? They were using cheap and old munitions, and they were beating the brakes off of the U.S. and Israel. That's that asymmetrical warfare that they were not prepared for. That's like having a Humvee and you get one of them little like sparkler pops that you use during like 4th of July. And then next thing you know, that, affects like essential pieces of the Humvee so they can't operate. Like you didn't spend much, but now you basically stop that vehicle from running. And so I want to share this as well because you have Israeli officials that are pissed about this deal. So Etamon Ben Gvir, one of the spawns of Beelzebub Netanyahu, decided to go on this long, blood-soaked rant. He decided to unhinge his jaws for this one. He says Trump's agreement does not bind us. Israel is not subject to the United States, and we are an independent and sovereign nation. Okay, Benny. Says our duty is to the citizens of Israel, to the soldiers of the IDF, and to the Jewish people, and our historic duty to the persecuted and murdered Jews over thousands of years of exile, to provide security to Jews in the land of Israel. Says every time we succumb to international pressure at the expense of Israel's security, we paid a blood price with interest. It was true in the Oslo Accords, it was true in the Lebanon Agreement in 2006, and it was true in every period of containment in Gaza that exploded in our faces. We emphasize we love the USA and are grateful to President Trump, and yet the state of Israel is not a banana republic. You sure about that? Says I say these things to the Prime Minister all the time, and I repeat them in closed rooms at every important historical juncture, in historical moments, and a historical decision must be made. My position is clear. We are not partners to this agreement, but that does not ensure our security, and it does not bind us in any way. We must not compromise on anything less than dismantling Hezbollah. We must not withdraw from any territory that our fighters have captured and clear of terror infrastructure. We must not return to a situation where thousands of terrorists sit on the fences of northern settlements. And certainly we must not remain silent in the moment in the face of the fire directed at the state of Israel. But here's the thing, Benny. Here's the problem. You took their stuff. And they're fighting back. That's the problem. Like, they're not just attacking you out of willy-nilly. You're stealing their land, and then you're surprised, shocked, you're pressed. Oh my God, they're actually fighting back? What? The delusions of grandeur. The delusions of grandeur this man has. And it's like, okay, if you want the fighting to stop, then stop taking people's stuff. But he doesn't want to. But he has to spin it to make it look like, oh my God, they're just coming in because they hate us. No, you stole their shit. And the reason why I'm not calling him by his full actual name is because I don't respect Etamon Ben Gvir. I don't respect him at all. I do not respect somebody that is making excuses, not excuses, but is fully on board with sexual assault of Palestinians for resisting being occupied. I do not have respect for someone who's fully on board with genocide. I do not have respect for this monster who is pushing to take the land away from an indigenous people in a region just so that they can expand their settler colonial project. I do not have respect for this man. I do not have any type of regard for them. If I can make sophomoric and juvenile jokes at their expense, I will. At my big age, I will do it. That is the very least I can do without getting flagged. Insults, I will do it. Because people like this deserve no respect, no intellectual regard. Evil doesn't even quantify the proper definition of who Itamar Ben-Gvir is. Evil doesn't even quantify. He is wickedness incarnate. Wicked man. Nasty, nasty person. Let's continue on. They say we must make it clear every launch of a drone, UAV, or missile towards Israel from Lebanon will lead to an Israeli strike in Dahaya. That was the deterrence balance just a few months ago. We must not give it up in any way. And above all, we must make it clear to everyone, the people of Israel is a people of 3,000 years, the eternal people that does not fear a long road. We have faith in the creator of the universe, and we are strong and proud people that return to its homeland strong and proud and does not intend to lower its gaze before the enemies anymore. These are days of when the Jew took blows and kept silent, never again. Here's the thing, though. They're like the people of Israel are people of 3,000 years. Well, yeah, and they're called Palestinians. And in fact, they're longer than 3,000 years. Just like the Iranians, you know, like the empire, the Persian Empire, which Iran, you know, is basically a descendant of, is over 5,000 years. So here's the thing, right? You have a European that's claiming that they're of the descendant of people of 3,000 years. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe 3,000 years, but that's in Europe. But you don't think the Palestinians aren't people that land that have been there the entire time? Go ahead and do a DNA test. Go ahead, DNA test, and swab all the cheeks, get blood tests for every single Palestinian in that area. Go ahead, do it. And do a 1v1. Go ahead, do it. I dare you. I dare you. I double dare you. I triple dog dare you. Do it. By the way, the research has already been done. Palestinians are the people of the region that has been there for over 3,000 years. Mm-hmm. Yep. By the way, the city of Ur, where the forefather Abraham is from, is in modern-day Iraq. Yes, Abraham was Iraqi. Abraham, yes. Father of Isaac, grandfather of Jacob. Jacob's other name is Israel. Yeah, I was an evangelical for almost 20 years, so kind of have a little bit of knowledge in that. So here's the thing, right? Itamar Ben-Gvir said all that. And then you had Beelzebub Netanyahu that decided also to interject because I guess he's pissed as well especially about what has taken place. And so let's share this as well, because I think this is also deeply important, because I want you guys to see this. So let's take a look and listen to what the Lord of the Flies himself has to say. Here he is.
ממשלת ישראל. אנחנו הרבה פעמים רואים עין בעין, ויש גם מקרים שאנחנו רואים פחות עין בעין. אני אחראי לאינטרסים הביטחוניים של ישראל, אני עומד עליהם.
Okay, so I'm going to have to read so you guys can, if you're not listening. So There was a question that says, will you strike alone in Iran again? And will you strike independently in Lebanon? A few questions. So he's speaking in Hebrew because, Benjamin Netanyahu will, if he's speaking in English, that means he's speaking directly to us. If he's speaking in Hebrew, he ain't talking to us. He's talking to the people in the Zionist settlement of Israel. And so here's what he says.
אנחנו הרבה פעמים רואים עין בעין, ויש גם מקרים שאנחנו רואים
He said there was a question.
פחות עין בעין. אני אחראי לאינטרסים הביטחוניים של ישראל, אני עומד עליהם.
Israel
אני רוצה להגיד לך איך
eye to eye, and there were also instances in where we see
לעשות את זה בתבונה, וזה דורש הרבה.
less eye to eye.
בניסיון.
He says, I am responsible for Israel's security interests.
הרבה תבונה, והרבה היכרות עם הזירה האמריקנית. זה דורש הרבה ניסיון.
He says, I'm standing to do this wisely.
ניסיון. אני חושב שאני עושה את זה על הצד הטוב ביותר, וכשצריך, אני עומד איתן על האינטרסים.
And a lot of understanding and a lot of familiarity. So essentially, he's like, well, we don't see eye to eye on this. Well, yeah, because you just basically want to take over the entire region, and Iran said, hell no. But we got to show them Trump's response, right? But before we do that, let me share this with you guys. There was a news report out of the Associated Press. And let me make sure this is big enough so everybody can see. It says, initial deal to end U.S.-Iran war moves towards formal signing despite lingering questions. It says an initial agreement between the United States and Iran to extend their shaky ceasefire towards a formal signing despite questions Monday over the fate of Tehran's nuclear program, an offensive by Israel and Lebanon that could prolong the fighting and scuttle the deal. The agreement signed electronically Sunday is meant to provide a meaningful truce in a months-long war that has killed thousands across the Middle East, including top leaders of Iran's theocracy, and raised the prices of fuel, food, and other basic goods far beyond the region. But logistical and military challenges underscored the fragile nature of the deal, which was set for a ceremonial signing Friday in Geneva. At the core of the path is planned reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial waterway whose blockage has choked the supply of the world's oil and natural gas. Yet even a full reopening would not immediately alleviate the global energy crisis its closure created. And so it says that Netanyahu basically said that Israel has its own interests. It says primarily protecting the people against the nuclear threat from Iran. He said Iran wanted Israel to withdraw from Lebanon, but he stood firm, saying Israel will remain in the buffer zone as long as necessary. He says basically to the people of Israel that the struggle is not over. We need to continue to be vigilant, to remain strong and determined to defend ourselves as necessary. It says other uncertainties center on Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, which the U.S. and Israel worry could be used to build an atomic weapon, despite Tehran's insistence for years that it has no aspirations to do so. The deal gives Iran just 60 days to decide what will do to its supply. It took years from Iran and world powers to negotiate a 2015 agreement to rein in Iran's nuclear program. So they're talking about the JCPOA. And it says President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew the U.S. from that accord in his first term, setting the stage for the tensions that culminate in the current war. So if Donald Trump hadn't ripped up the Iran deal back when he was in his first term, we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. But yet here we are. So because of what Netanyahu's done. Also, there have been some attacks on Lebanon because Israel hasn't stopped. So I want to share what Donald Trump has actually been saying in regards to the attacks that have happened. Because I think that's important. Let me make sure I have this one set up because this one is very important. Okay. So let me share this with you guys. This is what Donald Trump had to say. And so I'm going to ask if he's frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu. Listen closely now.
Are you frustrated with Netanyahu?
No, we had a great relationship. We're talking about some end details. I didn't like that he did an attack based on there's a very minor little thing with some drones that were released, and he ends up doing I saw that attack. I saw where that bomb went. Did you see what happened? That was a vicious, that was too much. You can do too much also. But we've had a very effective relationship. Without the United States, there would be no Israel.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. First of all, he said, Ben, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. Without the United States, we wouldn't be in Israel. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny that he says that because you know who also said something similar? Joe Biden. He said back in the 90s, if there was no Israel, then the United States would have to create an Israel in order to protect her interests in the region. See the overlap between people like Biden and Trump? See that? Quite interesting. All right, let's go back in.
Without me, there would be no Israel because no other president was willing to do what I did. I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon. Lebanon used to be a great country. It was a country where you had professors, doctors, lawyers. The great intellect was in Lebanon. Now it's terrible. I would.
You know who also has and continues to have great doctors, lawyers, engineers, and all that? Iran. And one of the biggest demographics that has the highest amount of educated people, especially in STEM, is Iranian women. Oh my God, it's so oppressive. Yet the people who are the most educated is Iranian women. They are the most educated. Some of them scientists that are helping Iran right now, women. They're some of the smartest ones. People don't figure that one out. But yeah, Lebanon. And Lebanon, they're trying to protect themselves.
Of all countries, they've been treated the worst. And they can't defend themselves. And they have Hezbollah, which is a problem for them. So, now I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves with Lebanon and with Hezbollah. They should have been able to do the job faster. It just goes on forever. And when that happens, it throws a negative light on the big deal, and that's the deal with Iran. So when you ask me about Bibi, an unbelievable relationship. But Israel would have been blown up a long time ago had I not gotten involved. Two things I did. I terminated the Iran nuclear deal. Barack Hussein Obama sold out Israel for Iran. He went to Iran. He sold them out. How anybody can vote for this guy or the party, the Democrats I call them, because they're dumb. They're dumb people. That's number one. How anybody can vote for them. And the second was the B-2 bombers, just totally destroyed. So they had the right, the JCPOA. I watch these politicians. I watched a Senator Reid that nobody ever heard of the other day. Well, this deal is the same as the deal with Barack Obama. No. This deal is a wall to a nuclear weapon. His deal was a road to a nuclear weapon. My deal, they can't have a nuclear. They get blown up. If they have a nuclear weapon, they get blown up. In his deal, they were allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
He's lying. Look, let me tell you something. I have like all of the rhetorical smoke for Barack Obama because he is absolutely awful. But here's the thing, right? The goals of Barack Obama was also that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And in fact, even Kamala Harris, when she was on the campaign trail, was like, yeah, Iran can have a nuclear weapon. The funny thing is, for all these years, Iran was like, we don't want a nuclear weapon. People go, well, they've been enriching their uranium. Well, yeah, and so, but here's the thing. They weren't trying to get to a nuclear weapon. They were actually just trying to get nuclear power plants so that they can have that. But because y'all kept attacking them, and they were like, well, I guess we should get at least close just in case. Look what they did to Libya. I don't see them going out to North Korea. Y'all kept attacking them. And guess what? Let me tell you something. If Iran actually had a nuclear weapon, do you think that we would be at war with them right now? Just saying. Just saying.
And in all fairness to Bibi, I remember very well, Bibi came to Washington and he begged Obama not to make that deal. And Obama was on the side of Iran, not Israel. And he made the deal. That deal was a disaster. I terminated that deal. And if I didn't terminate, and was very tough after the termination, and if I didn't do that, Howard knows better than anybody. If I didn't terminate that deal, I believe that Israel wouldn't be here right now. And the second one was what we did with respect to the nuclear dust, as I call it, right? We blew it up. The mountain collapsed on top. You can't get to it. And they were 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. And if they had a nuclear...
Oh, please. Don't start with that same line that Beelzebub Netanyahu was saying, oh, no, they were 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. Baby, you... Are you holding Beelzebub Netanyahu's the inside of his pockets now? Is that what we're doing now, Donnie? Donnie and Bibi sitting in a tree. ING. My God. Grow up here, Don. Gosh. Anywho.
Weapon, they would have used it on Israel, and I hate to say it, and probably the rest of the Middle East, because they had all those missiles aimed at the Emir, at Saudi Arabia, at UAE, at Kuwait, at Bahrain.
Well, why though, Don? Was it because they were pointed at those nations just because they hated those nations? No, they were pointed at the U.S. military bases that were housing those nations that you guys put around them because you guys wanted to take Iran back over. That's why they were there. If those new military bases weren't there, then they wouldn't have been pointing those missiles at those bases in those countries. They weren't at the countries. They were pointed at the bases in those countries. Guess what? If you keep those bases away from those countries, guess what? They're not going to be pointing them out there. You're essentially using the Gulf nations as shields. They're human shields. You're doing the thing. Gosh.
The biggest surprise in this whole thing, I didn't think you guys would. I thought he would aim at Israel, but he didn't aim at Israel, much less. He aimed at your countries. And actually, that was a mistake for them because it brought us, these countries, in particular the 5 countries, it brought us, I mean, he even hit Turkey once. I never understood it. Nobody's going to understand it. That's the problem. They're totally irrational people. And those people are now gone. And I think Iran has rational leadership now. But you wouldn't have, if it weren't for the United States of America, with me, because Obama was the opposite, Israel would not exist right now. Israel would have been blown off the face of the earth, 100%. And
my goodness. Look, here's the thing. If you're going to go after Obama, go after Obama for all the things that he's done that's actually true, which there's plenty. But to lie and say that he was trying to basically handing over nuclear weapon over to Iran, that's just patently false. By the way, Iran didn't want a nuclear weapon. Gosh. Don just lies through his teeth. It's crazy.
every smart person in Israel knows that. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, so basically that's what Donald Trump had to say. And then after that, they actually went after Lebanon. And finishing up here, of course, the article from David DeCamp. Basically, so said that he wanted to continue going after Lebanon. It says, while Baghai said that Israel must respect Lebanon's territorial integrity, a U.S. official claimed to reporters on Monday that the memorandum of understanding doesn't include an Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon, just a ceasefire. Israeli attacks and military operations appear to have eased since the announcement of a U.S.-Iran deal, but at least one person was killed by the Israeli drone strike on Monday, which was yesterday. And as long as the occupation remains, the war will continue at some level. Here's the problem. Israel could literally end the occupation by getting out of Lebanon. They can end the war by just getting out, but they don't want to because they want to take it over. It's European colonization by another name, and they call it settlements. It's not settlements, it's an invasion. It's no different than the invasion that happened on this land 500 years ago. No different. People want to talk about, oh, that was 500 years ago. But yet, people want to, stay stuck on stuff that happened 150, 200 years ago, right? They want to fly a flag of a nation or pseudo nation that actually lost a civil war, and they don't know how to let that go. So no, there's a lot of context in that. But ultimately, what needs to happen now is Iran would need to ensure that this goes through, but at the same time, part of their deal is that Lebanon doesn't get messed with. The problem is Israel will not stop. And if there should be a part in the agreement where it says if Israel goes after Lebanon, then the deal's off. But of course, Israel's like, well, we're not bound by what the United States does. In reality, Israel technically is a United States military outpost, in my opinion. And so, do you guys think that this is going to stand? Do you guys think this is going to stick around and stay? Let me know, because I'm actually pretty curious about this. Let me take a look at the poll so we can actually see exactly what you guys think, because I am actually quite curious as regards to your opinions on this. And so, because I feel like this is going to downgrade, and the reason why I think part of the reason why Trump is doing this is because the midterm elections are happening this November. And so he wants to keep, power in Congress for, the MAGA side. But their outlook on Israel has degraded so much that it's basically like, to them, it's like, no, that's Israel first, not America first. And then he's also trying to secure a MAGA win in 2028, but that's looking like a toss up in the air now. And so we're seeing that. So let me share this with you guys here. And so the question is, do you think the U.S. will abide by this memorandum of understanding with Iran? 12% said yes, especially for the elections. 16% said no, the U.S. can't be trusted. I'm kind of split between those two. 16% said don't know, they're all over the place, and that's true. And then 12% said they never have and never will. And so I'm kind of stuck between I'm kind of in between the yes and the no. I'm thinking that it will be long enough for them to say that they have, just so that they can use that as a campaign tool to say, oh, we actually had a deal, an arrangement. But the problem is, like, okay, so here's my thing. And then we can end this segment. But I feel like what the U.S. will do is they will go by the memorandum of understanding. But Israel, they're saying we are not bound by it. And so they're going to continue the attacks on behalf of what the United States really wants. But the United States will now have plausible deniability and go, hey, it's not us, it's Israel. And so, they can be like, Iran, look, we had a deal. You can't go and against this. But the problem is, like, if Israel's saying that, they're not bound by whatever the United States does, then that means that also, if they're not bound, then that means, essentially, Iran going after Israel for going after Lebanon, that's fair game then. They just marked that they are fair game now when it comes to this conflict. Because the United States and Iran aren't going in against each other. It's Iran going against Israel now. And what is the United States going to do? Because their memorandum of understanding is between them and Iran. Israel is nowhere in that equation. And yeah, the Strait of Hormuz is open, things like that. But look, I hate to, put it this way, but I mean, Iran can still straight mollywop Israel, even with the Strait of Hormuz still open. And if the Strait of Hormuz is still open, that means that free trade from ships from China going into Iran still can happen, which means that Iran can still get supplies. I mean, they still were getting supplies even still, but since it's more free, it's like, what's the United States going to do? That memorandum of understanding is between them two. It's not between Iran and Israel. So if Israel wants to do it that way, Iran's probably like, all right, okay. But if you don't want to be part of this agreement, well, guess what? You take one step into Lebanon, something's going to happen. But I feel like it's more of a plausible deniability from the United States to continue the war going. Because look, Jared Kushner and his whole family, they really want to take over all that land so that they can do more real estate development. That's all ultimately what it's about. And they won't stop until that land is clear for them to be able to build upon. I'm just hoping that real liberation comes soon, because I do not want to see the people of the land to be cleared away like they have been in other places. Was there a deal? Was there not a deal? I'm leaning towards the latter. Go ahead and like the stream. Thank you very much, guys. All right, let's get into the rest of the chat, and then we are on our way out. So let me check the Kick chat and see if we have any Kick. Let's give the subs, and then we will go into Rumble, and we will check on that. We're good on the Kick side. Great. Let's go into Rumble. See if we have any. Okay, we're good there. And let's go into the rest of the chat. Okay. Edward says, JB, you are right. We need to help and protect one another because the politicians are not going to help us. Yeah, they're not. Sean says, JB, not crazy. You are rightfully upset. I would be livid. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for this, Roger, for the super chat. It says, Lee County, Georgia, black, white talking about white came to FBA family reunion and decided to make it a Second Amendment event. They got kids, women in house and return fire. Wait. I saw that story. Yeah, I saw that. And they missed, like, all the people that they fired at, they missed, but I think the dad of the family, he shot and actually got the guy that was shooting at him. Because I think he yelled some racial slurs at them, left, and then came back with a gun and started firing gun at them. Just because they're black. It's crazy. Actually, yes, kill your Grigors. Frustration, anger can be a positive energy if directed properly. That's absolutely true. Contrarian Kitty, thank you very much for the box. Yes, kittens and cats do love boxes. Also, did the YouTube make the chat bigger, or did I do something on my phone? Maybe something on your phone? Ever says there was no deal. Trump is just performing because Lebanon is still being attacked by Israel. Trump has been compromised by Israel. He took Israeli money, so he needs to abide to Israel. Yeah, that Miriam Adelson money really greased them gears. Roger says, good news. I got the rest of my blood results. Creatinine, 0.9. Kitty's in great shape. Congratulations. Alt, PSA, good. Prostate's in good shape. EGFR, that's really good. Okay, perfect. I'm glad for you, Roger. Great news. Great news. And yes, Roger, just eat more like leafy greens and also eat more fish, especially like salmon, sardines, and stuff. All right. Good to see Mary Ploppins on the Rumble side. Hunter Green says, "Oi." Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Let me see. Okay, Grigor says Cuba too. Let me see. Free Cuba from American sanctions, aka war crimes. Absolutely, definitely. Yeah, Bryce says so many weeks from him having a nuclear weapon. Right? It's like, what? How many weeks have they been? It's crazy. They're 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 9 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Anyways. And yes, Holly says that the deal is a psyop. Oh my goodness. Ay. All right. Well, guys, gotta get going. And thank you guys so very much. A very special happy birthday to my niece. She's 20 now. Oh my God. Lord. Miss Thang. Happy birthday, baby. I love you. Oh my goodness. I am proud of you. Woo. I got other birthdays coming up. Hell, my birthday's coming up. So wait, what day is my birthday fall on? Hang on. I think my birthday falls on a Monday. Let me see. Yeah, my birthday's on a Monday. So the next day, I'll be live. So that's going to be interesting. All right, cool. All right, guys. So, and by the way, on this Friday, is Juneteenth. So, Black Americans, get ready. I hope y'all. What y'all going to be? Wait, hang on. What are Black Americans? What are we going to do for Juneteenth? Are we doing a cookout, or are we just having people by the house and it's going to be like pot roast, some fried chicken, some black eyed peas, collard greens, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese? Is it kind of almost Thanksgiving-y, or is it cookout with like the potato salad and the ribs, the chicken? You know what I mean? Like how are we going to do this? And please make sure it is a sweet cornbread. I don't like savory cornbread. I like sweet cornbread. All right. That means something to me, especially when you gotta lift some honey and some butter and put it on. Yeah. By the way, happy Juneteenth to all y'all. All right, guys, gonna head out. And thank you so very much for staying for this entire stream. Also, if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. And also, if you guys want to, you guys can also hype the stream as well. Once this finished, thank you so very much to everybody for tuning in. And that is it for today. I will see you guys next Tuesday. And of course, I will be making sure to get in my reading for next week, so you guys can indulge on that. So, what do I always say? Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Also, please make sure to focus on your mental health. Focus on what you're grateful for. Focus on trying to be there for others, but do not neglect yourself, because I think that's what's important. And look at people like Roger. He focused on himself in healthy ways, and now his kidneys are rocking like Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. I said blue bells, not blue balls. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys later. Have a great night. One forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. One.